Thank you, Tim, for having me here to talk about Wildlight. I always love this conference. I always feel like I get so much out of it, and then it stresses me out too because it makes me realize how much work I have to do when I get back to the office. But it's awesome. There's so many great projects. So, what I wanted to talk about is just give everybody like a quick overview of what Rayonier is as a timber company, and how its sustainability model and values kind of translate into Wildlight, and then what we're doing at Wildlight specifically in terms of sustainability and then landscape sustainability too. So it's just a quick overview. So Rayonier is publicly traded timber company, forestry company. We have over 440 employees. Company's almost 100 years old. We're headquartered up in Nassau County, which is just north of Jacksonville, in the town of Wildlight. So Rayonier owns about 2.7 million acres of real estate throughout its portfolio, which is mostly timberlands in the southeast. We have land up in the Pacific Northwest as well. So we look at Rayonier's land, most of it's timberland, but a lot of it's under growth pressures, depending upon where it's located. And Wildlight's one of the first areas just north of Jacksonville that we identified as a development opportunity in the Rayonier portfolio. So Rayonier has always had a sustainable component to it because land is its biggest asset. So we have to take care of the land and manage it properly to continue to grow. I mean, we're basically we treat timber like a crop. So you got to take care of your farm, you got to take care of your land so you can renew and keep producing that timber. So we've always kind of viewed it in three kind of tranches. You know, we grow renewable forest products, we create inspirational places, and then we deliver land-based solutions. So that's another component we've really been focusing on, is we view the land portfolio as a way to help combat the kind of global climate crisis that we're having right now. So how can we leverage our land to produce carbon offsets through solar and wind? So overall sustainability at Rayonier is in three: environmental, social, and governance. And so we talk about carbon reduction, sustainable forest management, safety is very important to our company. And then transparency is important too through our governance and our boards. So the land-based solution, again, I'm talking about just kind of at the corporate level. We start to utilize our land for solar farms, wind farms, and we're starting to do a few carbon capture and storage projects where you capture the emissions from manufacturing processes and actually capture it and put it underground and store it underground, let it naturally dissipate, and then we can still utilize the land for forestry operations. So Wildlight is a 24,000 acre community in Northeast Florida. It's 24,000 acres, 24,000 units. It's bordered by 95 on the west, the St. Mary's River on the north, which is the state line between Florida and Georgia, and then A1A on the south. So its location is 15 minutes from Jacksonville International Airport, and 20 minutes to the east is Amelia Island. So location, it's right where most of the growth is happening within Nassau County in Northeast Florida. Traditionally, a lot of the growth has been south of Jacksonville. That area's become kind of saturated, and so development's starting to move to the north of the city. So when we started the project, we wanted Wildlight to be a new town. So in connect it to nature and create a conservation network where all the neighborhoods, so it feels like neighborhoods are within the conservation area and not just we create neighborhoods and then conservation is just what's left over. We defined our entire conservation network prior to setting up our neighborhood structure. So This is just some of the initial objectives for the project that we set forward for some of the, to help us guide the master planning and guide the vision. So we wanted it to be a new center for Nassau County. Most of the arts and culture and commerce happened on Amelia Island in the town of Fernandina Beach. The county is growing further to the west, and we wanted Wildlight to be a new town center to house and be a new activity center for that growth. So within Wildlight today, we have about 2,000 units already built. This is our first phase is about 2,900 acres. We have a combination of commercial things. Let's see if I can get this laser pointer to work. Can you guys see that? Out on the front of A1A and 95, we have our commercial center, and then we have our first neighborhoods, Founders Park, Forest Park, and then under development, we have another 500 units up to the north. We have a Del Webb community with 660 units over there. So this is really the first experiment with implementing our residential landscape pattern book. The next, just kind of give you a quick overview, the next section of Wildlight, this is what I was showing earlier. This is our next section, is the Garden District, which is about 4,000 acres. And within that, it's about 4,000 planned homes too within that neighborhood. So we're working on that next. We're starting to talk to the builders and start having these conversations about implementing some of these, I'll just say non-traditional landscape ideas with them. So within the Wildlight project, we've been working with Pierce Jones, Dr. Jones's group, Program for Resource Efficient Communities, and Jensen Kipp, who's here today. And we started to talk about, let's put together a sustainability plan for Wildlight and start thinking about it in terms of what are our goals for the project. So we identified kind of like this triple bottom line framework, which is people, planet, and profit. So what are the things that we can do that can prioritize the well-being of our stakeholders, our members of the community, have a positive impact on the planet, but also make sense from a business case standpoint. We want to make sure our investment in these things, yield substantial returns for us over the life of the project. So this is the process that we set up. We're identified, kind of evaluated the project. This is really like the scope of work from the Program for Resource Efficient Communities for Pierce's team, and Jennison put this together. So this identified kind of like 5 tasks that we're going to work on. And we set this up last year to identify, get their team up here, identify and assess Wildlight, make sure they understood the entitlements, the land base, natural resources, and sustainability objectives, identify partner organizations within the university community and outside, and then how can we kind of operationalize our agreement or the program by setting up stakeholder meetings within 3 distinct natural area, or 3 distinct kind of study areas. We had landscape, stormwater infrastructure, and the natural areas wildlife management plan. And so we identified those and set up kind of, I would say, monthly phone calls with them initially last year. And so we started talking about different projects and different opportunities to implement landscape, wildlife and ecology, and green stormwater infrastructure within projects we already had in the planning phases for Wildlight. So we started to identify those, and then we started categorizing them within our sustainability goals. So we set up a group of goals, which are water conservation, water quality, ecological preservation, biodiversity, renewable energy, climate resiliency, community engagement, and health and wellness. And then this was a matrix that Pierce started and helped us kind of organize what are our goals, what are our long-term objectives, what are our targets, what's the current approach, what are we doing right now, or what is the industry standard, and then what's the Wildlight approach, what are we going to do unique to this project, and what are the key performance indicators so we can determine our success or failure, and then what are the costs, who are the experts that are going to help us with that, and then are we already doing it already and we just need to quantify it, excuse me, or is it something that we need to invest further in the project? So this is just an example for each of the long-term objectives and some of the ideas we have under like water conservation, for example. We want to reduce the need for irrigation water and reclaimed water on the site. The current approach is just like, as Pierce walked us through earlier, is current development approach. You know, you strip the topsoil, go find structural fill, put it back, it's void of any organic material, and then you're just constantly adding fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, in irrigation water to keep that landscape alive. We know we need to do a different approach. We're under pressures. It's mostly cost and operational issues related to water. We don't have a water constraint issue yet. We know we are going to have one eventually, but we need to start taking steps right now to reduce reduce the use of that resource. So we identified some landscape areas that we're going in, and we're doing a test project with some soil amendments, and then we're going to start to monitor that. So that's just one example of our water conservation efforts. And then under the ecological preservation and biodiversity section, you know, we work with IFAS on putting together an open space resource management plan, and we're in the process of implementing that as well. So, so we're kind of working through those goals, identifying elements that we can do. These are some of the other couple examples of what are some of the sustainability things that we're doing at Wildlight. And one of the biggest components of the project is what we call the Conservation Habitat Network. It's about 11,000. It's almost 50% of the entire land for Wildlight that's set up in a network of greenways and conservation areas. It has about 3,000 acres of that is uplands. Most of it is wetlands. And but we have a great kind of legacy of timber roads throughout the property. So we're leveraging that for trail networks that connect through the Conservation and Habitat Network. Another time back to water conservation, we set up a couple test projects. One is a turf grass test project where we have 6 different varieties of turf grass that we've installed in one of the locations of the project, and we have irrigation controlled where we can monitor the success of that turf grass. Now we set this up about 6 months ago, and we wanted to monitor the turf grass for our next phase of the project, which will be going in probably 6 to 7 months. We'll start landscape installation there. So we're out, we have a couple different varieties of Bahia out there, and we have zoysia, and I forget the other species we have, but we're monitoring those to understand exactly how they perform so we can minimize, so we know which areas we want to use specific turf grasses in. We want to minimize the turf grass, but we also want where people are going to come in contact with it, we're thinking it's going to be a more higher maintenance grass like the zoysia. But if we're looking at pond banks and things like that, obviously we're looking at Bahia grass. But we want to understand how those perform in the landscape. And then we're working on another soil amendment project, and this is in whoops, I hit the wrong button. But which we're doing compost amendments in this power easement and monitoring how the plant material performs versus non-composted areas out in this section. So we have We're just getting started on that right now. We have soil samples that we've taken before the amendments, and then we'll take soil samples at intervals throughout the project. We have irrigation controlled, so we can turn irrigation on and off to monitor how the plants are performing in those areas. The other major kind of component to Wildlight is we have 12 miles of frontage on the St. Mary's River, and so we're preserving that in what we call the Green Ribbon Trail. So that's like our own park system that provides public access to the St. Mary's River. Ultimately, there'll be a new boat ramp on the north end of that connection to the St. Mary's River, and then so all that's preserved for public access in the St. Mary. We're calling it the Green Ribbon Trail, St. Mary's Greenway, and then it provides connectivity down into the neighborhoods. And then on the kind of like communicating to our residents and to the broader kind of Northeast Jacksonville area, we worked with a local artist who has prepared a book, The Wilderness of North Florida Parks. Some of you may have, if you're up in Jacksonville area, you may have heard of it, but it really focuses on all the really interesting natural areas that are around Northeast Florida. And so we sponsored an edition of that book, and she came out and focused on some of the Wildlight elements too, to help kind of promote and have some community engagement component with the sustainability at Wildlight. And then, I've got about 3 minutes here. One other example is, this is in the Garden District, this River Bluff Parkway. This is where we're really implementing the native landscape plants along this section, and with the goal of reducing irrigation, the goal of reducing turf grass. So this project will start installation probably in another 6 months or so. And then a couple of things we worked on last year. Dr. Gail Hansen worked on a pattern book, landscape pattern book for our garden district, and I'll provide that to the outside Collab so they can put that up on the website and share that. And then Mark Hostetler worked on a open space and wildlife management plan for us for our conservation habitat network and open space network. And just like this, these are some of the groups I just want to say thanks to for helping us out last year to help us get kind of where we're at. I feel like we're just setting the table right now. The next step for us is to really implement a lot of these projects and start quantifying how successful they will be. But thank you very much.